The 2020 census is finally completely here. And you may have seen the headlines. America is more diverse than ever. The share of the white population dipped from around 64% to around 58%, below 60 for the first time. But as states begin to redraw their congressional districts ahead of the crucial 2022 midterms, the numbers tell us a lot more about where America's going and who could hold power over the next 10 years. Here are the 4 things you should know about the 2020 census and the upcoming redistricting process. 1. The country is getting more urban, and that's bad for Republicans. All 20 of the country's top cities saw population increases, and 80% of metro areas, meaning cities plus their surrounding suburbs, saw growth as well, at the same time that a majority of counties lost population. Why? It's a simple reality. Most counties are rural, and the country is getting more urban, fast. And that's good news for Democrats, because when it comes to the largest and fastest growing metro areas, Democrats clean up. Joe Biden gained ground in almost every swing state metro area, winning some states solely because of his performance in them. Think Denver or Atlanta or Phoenix. Democrats depend on these bustling, diverse, college-educated centers more than ever, and they're only getting bigger. 2. Rural areas lost could be congressional Democrats' gain. A side effect of the country's urbanization is that some rural congressional districts are going to need to be axed. And that could give congressional Democrats, who face long odds to hold the House in 2022, a sliver of hope. Because the same way Democrats tend to perform well in those growing urban areas, Republicans dominate in those declining rural ones. So that's opening the door for some blue states, like Illinois and New York, where population growth tracks with Democrats' performance, to grab a gerrymandering boost. As elections analyst Dave Wasserman points out, Democrats could pick off as many as 6 Republican seats in just those 2 states alone. And in red states like Georgia, the growth of metro areas over rural ones is also complicating Republican efforts to gerrymander big metro areas like Atlanta. 3. Growing blue dots in red states might actually be hurting Democrats. In the 21st century, all 13 states that have gained seats have been in the South or the West. And that's especially important in big swing states like North Carolina, Florida, and Texas. And while the overwhelming majority of the growth that created those seat gains has come from big blue metro areas like Charlotte, Orlando, Dallas, and Houston, it's not quite been enough to tip them to Democrats. So, as they all gain seats this census, Republicans control the state legislatures and therefore redistricting process in all of them. And now they have more and more seats to play with to gerrymander. Basically, blue voters are mostly the ones growing the power and representation of red-leaning states, but it's Republicans who will probably benefit. Because with congressional Democrats unlikely to get election reform over the filibuster, and Republican-stacked courts more hostile to the Voting Rights Act than ever, Democrats don't have a lot of options here. 4. The two Americas are wider apart than ever. This census solidifies what we've been seeing for a while. For all of our talk of
red states and blue states,
the real divide is within states, between metro areas and everywhere else. For example, Johnson, the biggest county in Kansas, voted closer to California than the rest of Kansas. Salt Lake, the biggest county in Utah, voted closer to New York than the rest of Utah. The chasm between Atlanta and the rest of Georgia was famously shown in the 2021 Senate runoffs. Basically, Americans are not only voting, but living so differently that even being from the same state doesn't tell us much anymore. How do we live together like that? Stay tuned, I guess.